Hi, Richie.
Hi, Sin.
Hi, everyone. What are we doing here today?
This is another great installment of the Runes of Bloodborne
The Runes of Bloodborne.
series you have to pay for, in which we go over the runes of Bloodborne,
The Runes of Bloodborne.
and there's an outline.
An outline. Thank you, Richie. What rune are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about the Moon Rune.
The Moon Rune.
This is the language of the Great Ones.
The language of the Great Ones is really off-key. Thank you, Richie. Describe the drawing on the rune and tell us what it represents.
This is a very abstract design.
It's an abstract design.
In the middle of the rune, there is like most of the runes in the middle, there's a sort of like cross design. And that divides it into sort of halves. And the bottom half is a very wide semicircle with a line going through it. And then the top half is a smaller semicircle with a line going through it. So they meet in the middle. And it's kind of symmetrical vertically, but the bottom circle is much wider, the bottom half of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, go. I'll tell you later. Go finish your
No, it's
stuff.
just going to be about food.
Well, okay. Imagine really cute little fancy fork that have 3 teeth instead of 4. And one is at the bottom and one is on top. And what they're doing is they're holding a mini sandwich. Like a little fancy sandwich.
Uh-huh.
That has like some filling or something, and the filling is sparkling.
Well, that's one interpretation. And as we know, there isn't really a story, you just make up something. So that's equally of value. And no one can say otherwise.
Do you think if I went to Miyazaki and told him that, he would just like straight up slap me?
No, I think it would be like laughs. That's one possible interpretation. I hope everyone enjoys it. When people like my games, it makes me happy. Laughs.
Okay. You were saying something intelligent. Go on.
When? Like 4 years ago.
Before we started doing these podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
little
the
circle,
design,
big circle.
yeah,
Mhm.
the design of Moon is like it's echoed in some other designs of runes. The most obvious one is it looks a lot like the Communion rune. Whereas in Communion, it's a triangle design up the top, whereas in Moon, it's another semicircle.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. And it also kind of looks like Formless Erden, the bottom part of it. That sort of semicircle design with the line through it.
Right.
But I think the way it looks like Communion is the most important thing to focus on.
Yeah, and it looks also like the other runes with the eye in it, I guess, like Eye Rune, Blood Rapture. Not necessarily looks like it, but they also have something that looks like an eye, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess Blood Rapture also kinda has semicircles,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Okay. You're not gonna remember this, but I think in one of the classic episodes, I told you that I just had a flashback. The hunter's mark looks like a little fork that's picking up an olive. And now I just told you that the other thing looks like a fork that's picking up a fancy sandwich.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a connection?
Well, do you think that's a comment on the design of the runes, or do you think it's a comment on you always thinking about food?
Um, I don't know. I think we'll let the listeners decide. But another thing, impurity also looks a little bit like formless Odin.
Yeah.
With the person with the head and the arms or whatever.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So the reason.
Wait, Richie. So are you giving me attitude by breathing? I heard another breathing. Could you stop?
Okay.
Thank you. So the moon rune. What was I saying? Oh, okay. So you know how those other runes look like it's people with the head and the arms extended in a semicircle?
Yeah.
Do you think the moon rune is trying to represent something like that?
Yes. I think it's the other way around.
How so?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to deviate from the outline.
Okay. No, this is fine because we're talking about what it looks like, actually. So this is per the outline.
So what are we talking about?
What the rune looks like what it represents, just the look, the drawing, what the drawing is.
Oh yeah, but it's gonna tie into where we find it when I talk about like interpreting the shape of it.
Okay, talk about it without saying where we find it. You know, like
Okay.
those secret documents where it's like when they don't want you to know something, they like black it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah. Okay. So in Upper Cathedral Ward, there's that mummified corpse that you get make contact from,
Mm-hmm.
and it's on a balcony.
Mm-hmm.
And like the choir are supposed to be connected to the sky. They're like astronomers and astrologers.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is like you get make contact, and make contact is you moving your arms in a like a circular pattern, like from one side to the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what they're going for is that like pose that you do when you're with your arms moving, that's meant to be you like copying the movement of the moon across the sky, like from one side to the other.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's why that person is on the balcony, because it's where you'd view the moon.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And yeah, and like make contact is relevant later on when we get the moon rune. But like I think that's the idea, that by moving your hands like that, you're making, it's like a symbolic representation of the moon moving across like in an arc. And that person probably like they probably stood there like all night, like with their arms outstretched, like copying the moon as it moved. And that's why when the red moon happened, they just like mummified on the spot, because they were like so tuned into the sky that it just like fried them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Richie. But
But
what if?
no. It also looks like communion because the whole
Yeah,
communion thing
yeah.
is like we're trying to contact things in the cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
So it fits with like it's the same thing. You're like trying to contact the moon. It's like you've it's like a I don't know, like an improved version of communion almost.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm,
Thank you, Richie.
that's all right.
But what if what they were actually trying to do is? So let's say they went on YouTube and, by watching videos one after another, they ended up in this YouTube hole and they saw the like inflatable arm flailing men.
What do they have outside like car dealers?
Well, I mean, they have carriages, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so maybe this person was like, I'll go on the balcony and I'll do this thing I saw with the hands with the inflatable man.
Well, that's the great thing about Bloodborne. There is no story. You just make up your own interpretation of it.
I feel like in the past hour you've said that more times to
Yeah.
my theories than
Yeah.
you've said that in the past year.
Yeah.
I
So
feel like
like there
everything.
when I was talking about like how the different like designs and everything they look like each other and like it's like a semicircle which mimics the motion of like bodies in the sky and it's all connected to this group of astrologers and like they move in a certain way to copy the movement of the sky and that symbolizes the moon but also like the communion rune that's meant to be communing with outside forces like it looks like the moon but it's a slightly different design so it's like different forms of reaching out with your mind or it could be that they just were on YouTube all night and those are both equally valid.
Rich. Okay. So now, could you read your text? Could you read the text in your best inflatable arm flailing man voice?
The secret symbol left by Carol, Runesmith of Bergenworth. The transcription of Moon is spoken by the Great Ones inhabiting the nightmare. More blood echoes. The Great Ones that inhabit the nightmare are sympathetic in spirit and often answer when called upon.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Richie.
I was waving backwards and forwards while I did that.
That's amazing.
Maybe when we upgrade to vodcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What does the rune do? What's the function or effect?
It gives you more blood echoes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And what's the location of the rune? Where is it? How do we find it? And who has it?
Okay, this is one of the runes where it's not tied to any chalice dungeons. So the 3 tiers are all available in the base game.
Mm-hmm. What does that tell us?
Which just means we don't have to say, and the third one is in a chalice dungeon.
But I mean, does it mean Sumerians didn't discover it or didn't know about it?
No, I'm pretty sure they did. It's just like, I guess the moon is important to the story. So they make it so you can find the moon rune, like just above ground.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's true because as somebody who plays Bloodborne for the first time, or even for a while, like when I played Bloodborne, back in the day, I didn't even understand or know what the dungeons were.
Yeah.
So I can see how, if the moon is important to the story, you'd want it to be in the main game for people to find.
Yeah, I didn't understand that the dungeons didn't scale, so I thought I'd leave them for like the end game.
Mhm.
And then it happened. I'm like, why am I one-shotting everything? Like, oh, because
Yeah.
I was supposed to do these earlier.
Yeah, and like when I was getting into the Bloodborne lore, I would like look stuff up, and then people would be like, Queen Yarnum is blah 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 blah, and I'm like, who's Queen Yarnum? Where are they getting this information? Like, and then turns out should have visited the
Yeah.
dungeons.
Yeah. I like how you're like, when I was looking at Bloodborne, it was like, oh, Queen of Yarn and blah, blah, blah. Someone looking it up today will find this.
Oh no!
Someone looking up Bloodborne lore today will find the Spark Hunter robot, okay? You're in no position to complain. Someone looking up Dark Souls 3 lore will find your interview with the Soul of Cinder.
Do you know that the Gale episode is like the favorite episode of everybody?
Well, I'm
And
glad something good came out of Gale.
Oh, shade. And do you know what recently somebody commented?
Actually, it's not supposed to make sense.
No. Basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but they said something like, the boss arena isn't the best episode, but it's among the best. Just so you're aware.
Among the best.
Okay. Where were we?
Where you find the rune.
Right. Go ahead.
Okay. The first place you find the rune is in Yahuggle.
Yeah, Hargul.
And we just talked about this when we talked about Clawmark.
Lamar.
That there's a corpse in Yahuggle. It's above like a grating. And that corpse has the moon rune on it.
The moon rune.
And like the thing it's above in Yahuggle, like it's in moonlight. And the thing that it's above is a room that's full of mirrors. And around that room there is like a corpse in front of a mirror that has frenzied cold blood on it. So what it's getting at is that, like, because Yahagul are trying to beckon the moon, but all this like moonlight is streaming in, and it's like reflecting off all of these mirrors, and that's why this guy who died has ended up with the moon rune. Because like the moonlight like penetrated his mind. And presumably, like, that's also why there's that frenzied body down there, because it saw something in the mirror. Like, the moonlight from the mirror did something to it. And yeah, we were saying that that's also where that transformed hunter is. So, like, that spot, like, it must get a lot of moonlight, and that's why that person, yeah, it's like a spot where there's a lot of moonlight concentrated.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Thank you, Richie.
Or maybe it's just whatever. So the second moon rune, you find that in the Nightmare of Mensis.
The Nightmare of Mensis.
Nightmare of Mensis. It's a corpse in Mikolash's boss arena. And like in, obviously, like Mensis were the ones beckoning the moon, and in Nightmare of Mensis there is a gigantic moon, and they're trying to summon Kos. So yeah, it makes sense that there would be like someone there who's been like screwing around with the moon, so it's in their head. Go on.
How did you know I had a thought?
Because I was thinking moon, and then it popped into my head. There's a Sesame Street song where Cookie Monster is going, "If moon was cookie," and I'm just imagining you doing that, and you're just like, "Ooh."
It's amazing. I didn't know about that song. Can you sing the entire thing?
No, we'll get copyright claimed.
Okay.
Okay.
Um. Did we read the text of the moon?
Yes, I read it as a wavy inflatable arm.
Oh,
man.
right. Okay.
Remember?
Yeah. Jesus. Can you reread it as the monster singing about the cookie?
No. We have to get to the end of this.
Okay. I had this thought. I don't know if I should. um. You know, when I used to live with my parents,
Yeah.
sometimes they'd call me, like, they'd be like, "Hey, come help us with the kitchen," and I'd be like, "What?" And they'd be like, "Come help us with dinner," and I'd be like, "No, I'm busy." They're like, "No, come help us." I'm like, "Oh, leave me alone." And so I feel like that's what's happened. Mikalash is like, Cos, come down. And Cos is like, "No, Cos, come on, I have a baby for you. No, leave me alone, I'm busy." I just had that exchange in my head.
Good.
as you were
Good.
talking about it. What's Mikalash calling Cos?
I'm just checking my world clock, and it is currently 11:25 p.m. for you.
Yes.
Yeah, and you've been working very hard and also moving house, and I think it's starting to show. You're in a state of kind of delirium.
Thank you, Richie. I don't know for what, but thank you. Thank you for enlightening us with your excellent lore for the past 2 years.
No, there's a third one.
I was just thanking you in general.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My best work was before the podcast, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
But is that among the best?
Okay. And the third location?
Is when you do make contact in front of the brain of Mensis.
Make contact in front of the brain of Mensis.
That is how it works, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And then?
Well, there's only 3 of them. That's 3.
No, I mean you make contact and the brain just gives you a rune.
Yeah. Haven't you played this? That is what happens.
But it's pretty chill of the brain because it's like you pull a lever and it falls down, right?
Yeah.
And then you come up to it, and then it's like, okay, here you go. Here's a rune for you.
No, you have to do make contact.
Well, yeah, you come up to it, you do contact, and he's like, here's a rune.
But
Richie! Richie!
Yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
god, I forgot, but now I remembered. I have a prepared to lore just on that topic. Remember?
Wait, maybe?
It's the one where, I'll send it to you after we finish.
Good.
Okay. Yeah. What are you saying?
That, like, the brain is... It's in, like, the tower. It's in a...
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's on... Yeah. And then when you do make contact, that's the same gesture that you find on that balcony that's looking at the moon.
The balcony is where you learn the gesture, right?
In Upper Cathedral Ward, yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, they make a point on the moon rune that the Great Ones, like, you can communicate with them. Like, relative. It says they're sympathetic in spirit, which made people think that, like, sympathetic as in, we're sorry. But it's more like, you can communicate with them. Like, they will recognize you as a like, living thing if you get their attention. That's what they mean by sympathetic.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, like, they're not like completely alien to you. Like even though there's something that's beyond humanity, they will still recognize you as like a sentient being. That's what it means.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is like you do that gesture that the choir were using to commune with the moon, and it must, because it's a great one. It says it's like a failed great one. It's like a rotten great one, but
Mm-hmm.
it recognizes in you like the moon. So then it like sends like the moon, like it speaks moon to you.
You know what? Yeah, like what you were saying about how you're. Because what I read about the make contact thing is that you make like a triangle and that represents something.
Yeah.
But what you're saying, I think, actually makes more sense, where you do something that
Yeah,
represents the moon, and then the brain sees it, and you're like, moon. And they're like, oh, moon, I know that one. Yeah.
yeah. And like where the brains, because we went over this before, but like the Nightmare of Mensis is pretty clearly supposed to be the remnants of a place that's like Yharnam.
Mm-hmm.
And the moon, the brain is in that tower, which roughly corresponds to the astral clock, where the choir are.
Okay. Yeah.
And like we know that the church did have like people with giant swollen brains in that tower. Yeah, so it makes sense. It all like lines up.
Yeah, true.
Oh, but sorry, it actually doesn't. Sorry. Anyway,
Somebody is extra shady today. Shade here, shade there. You know what I think it is, Richie? Since I've been moving and stuff, we haven't had time to record much. And I think you haven't had time to release your like frustrations in podcast form. So it's all like pent up, so you're just releasing it all now, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
It's like you missed your weekly therapy for a few weeks and now it's like, well, let me tell you. You know? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Richie. Well, actually, while you were describing moon, you touched a lot on the description of the rune.
Right.
I mean, can you look at the text and tell me if there's anything else you'd like to say about it that you haven't said before?
No, it just has like one sentence, which is the
Like,
great ones that inhabit the night.
4.
It has one sentence that tells you what the rune does.
Tell you what your rune does?
Which says the great ones that inhabit the nightmare are sympathetic in spirit and often answer when called upon.
So you talked about it.
Yes, and you call on it by doing make contact, and it's like, oh, thank you, here's your rune.
And can you read what it says in Japanese, please?
Do I have to?
Yes.
Alright.
Okay.
Hang on. Thankfully, the word moon isn't used very much in Bloodborne, so it'll be easy to find.
Oh my god! I'm laughing, and you know what? Corva just stared at me like very, very perturbed. Like, what are you laughing at like that? What did Richie say? Poor little guy. I should feed him, probably.
Do you think that, like, you thinking about food all the time is actually Corvo? Like, trying to tell you that he's hungry?
Like
with his
psychically?
psychically, but it gets to you, but it doesn't quite work, and you just think that you're hungry.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to put runes on my mind. But they're all wrong. It's not working.
Okay, so the Japanese thing is basically, it's the same, but like if you throw it in Google Translate, instead of saying sympathetic in spirit, it says like there's sensitive spirits that respond to the voice of those who call them.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
They answer when they're called upon, basically.
Yeah, which is the whole like
Yeah.
moon presence workshop thing. And like cause as well.
Yeah, I feel like they should have removed sympathetic and spirit from the translation. Because the sympathetic and spirit, from what I remember, generated a lot of like theories or whatever that may not be based in anything other than like an extra thing other than the text that was not there originally.
No, but it's more like there's what you actually see unfolding in the game, which is that the people are calling on the Great Ones.
Mm-hmm.
And the moon is involved in that. And you see it happen in the workshop, and you see it happen in Menses.
Yeah, I know. I'm
Twice,
just saying,
actually, 'cause-
sympathetic and
yeah,
spirit is
no,
not
no, yeah,
representative of it.
yeah,
Okay,
that's
Richie,
what
wait,
I'm
wait,
getting
stop.
at. Yeah.
Stop. Okay, so you're gonna say something, but I'd like you
Yeah.
to start it over because I'm just gonna cut it as a thing as you explaining the sentence.
Why? So you can put this on YouTube out of context.
What? What? No. How does it even make sense? I'm asking you to do something like good, like just explaining
Okay.
what you were just saying, but because you started it as a half sentence, it's just hard to edit in. So I'm just
All
saying,
right.
explain it
Okay.
again, but normally, like a human.
So when we talk about like sympathetic in spirit, and you were saying like
No, I wasn't saying anything. I'll cut all that out. What you
Yeah.
have to say is, oh my god, Richie, why are you testing me? No, what you just okay. I'll just read a sentence and then just forget everything that was said before. Okay, nothing. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
The great ones that inhabit the nightmare are sympathetic in spirit and often answer when called upon. Could you elaborate a bit more on that?
So throughout the game, you see people calling on the Great Ones in the nightmare. Like, the moon presence is summoned at the workshop, and they're trying to summon Cos at the Nightmare of Menses. And, like, the Upper Cathedral Ward choir people are like, and also the research hall, they're trying to commune with the Great Ones. And that's the whole point of the Healing Church, is, like, communing. To, like, reach out and commune with these things. So, like, when it says sympathetic in spirit, and it means that. It doesn't mean that they like, oh, we're sorry. That's bad. I'm sorry. Aw.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's like that's what you get if you just look at the actions taken by people in the game. As opposed to like we were talking about the script. Like if you sit around and you just read the script and ignore everything else, then you might think that meant like they feel bad for you. But if you take everything together, like how people are behaving and what they're doing and what the outcomes are, then yeah, it doesn't mean that. It means that they will like you can commune with them, they will recognize you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Richie.
And that's what we end up doing to get
Mm-hmm.
the level 3 rune, is that we commune with the brain of Menses.
We commune
We
with
call
the
like
brain of Menses.
we speak to it through our like make contact gesture, and it recognizes us and it speaks back.
Oh. It's chill. I find the brain extremely chill. Like it saw you do it, right? It saw you pull that lever. It's like, don't you pull that lever? And you're like, I'm gonna pull it. And it's like, don't you dare? And you're, oh yeah. And, it's like Corvo when he's like about to knock something off the table. I'm like, don't you dare. And she's like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm like, no. And he's like, yeah. And then he does it. And then I'm like, Corvo. And then he just runs away. But okay, I get it because then a little later he comes back and he's like, and I'm like, I love you. Like I forgot completely about him like breaking something, right, by throwing it off the table because he's so adorable and I love him. Maybe that's how the brain sees us. Like we dropped it, we almost killed it, but then later we come back and it's like, oh, look at the cute little human. Oh, it's okay. I love you, little human. Have a moon run.
Well, that's one possible interpretation. But, like, it's possible that the brain of Mensis doesn't like being in that tower.
Oh, yeah, because it's full of like nails or something. Those things, you
Yeah,
know.
it's connected with a whole lot of nails and chains that are like lifting it up. And it says that like Mensis retrieved the brain from the nightmare.
Yeah.
So it could have been like maybe it was chilling in the abyss and then they activated that lever and they pulled it up. And it's like, fuck! Ah! This is awful! Put me back down again!
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? How like it frenzies you, right, when it sees you at
Yeah.
first, but
Yeah.
then once you let it down, it doesn't frenzy you anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be because it's too weak or whatever, but also maybe it's just being like, thanks for letting me down. Like those a-holes have kept me up there for like 3 weeks. It's really like uncomfortable. There's a breeze. I want to go home. Like I want to watch
I
TV. I
want to
want to
go
watch
home
some
to my
Netflix.
abyss.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. You know,
Yeah.
there's no Wi-Fi up there. It's very boring.
Do you think there's Wi-Fi in the abyss?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm imagining the locust preacher from Dark Souls 3, and he ends on with, "But in the abyss there is Wi-Fi."
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Um. Okay. Thank you, Richie. And what great one is associated with the room? What great one spoke it?
Well, the brain it tells you. You see it on screen.
Oh my God! Wait a minute, Richie.
Yeah.
So is this the only time we actually literally witness a great one speaking to us through runes?
Speaking to us, yeah. You
Oh
see
my
one speak
God!
to Adeline.
Yeah, no, but I mean like literally like us. So a great
Yeah.
one spoke
Yeah.
to us and we got a rune from it. That's a, you know what? I'm, after doing all these podcasts, I'm starting to, like, I now see how significant that moment is.
Yeah.
We communed with a great one, right?
I like how you've gone like from it wants Wi-Fi to wait a minute. This is very significant.
No, but you know, like it's a,
Yes.
and
Yes.
the nightmare, no, not the nightmare. There's a description that says it's a legitimate great one.
Yeah.
So it's literally a great one that we come face to face
Yes.
with.
Yes. Or we'll face to whatever it has.
Face to brain with. Like, we never meet Kaz. Or, well, we meet, I guess, the corpse of Kaz and the nightmare.
Yeah.
We meet the moon presence, but, like, the moon presence is not very,
Well, I mean,
hmm.
you could say that the moon presence speaks to you in the intro, but it
Yeah.
does it via the messengers, not
Yeah, like,
directly.
yeah, it's not, it's more like, leave a message with my assistant type deal, Like, it doesn't speak to you directly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when it does speak to you, again, it's very much like, you're fired, give me your leg or whatever. I don't know. Like it's not, it's very aggressive. It's not like a happy meeting. You know what I mean? Either
Mhm.
like it imprisons you or you kill each other. And when it imprisoned Gurman, it like we didn't witness him talk to it much, right? So it's like, so this is literally the only great one that acknowledges us and talk to us through a rune. Oh.
Yep.
Like, even when you meet a Briatus, she's like crying and she's sad. She doesn't acknowledge you. She's like, tiny human, no, go away. I'm sad. I don't want to see you. She doesn't even react. We're so insignificant to her. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God. So this is literally significant because a great one talked to us, but it's also
And like how
significant.
like it's significant. On like
It
episode
is.
6 of this thing, you finally found something significant.
Yes, and it shows us like I don't know. I just realized that a literal great one talked to us.
Yep.
And under the circumstances that we find him in. Like, what a chill great one. I feel like the brain of Mensis is a great person.
Have you tried killing it to get the living string?
No, I'm not a monster.
Alright.
Doesn't it come back? I didn't think you could
Yeah, it
kill
respawns.
it. It respawns?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, Richie, I'm not a monster. I haven't tried to kill it for a frigate string. That's like that's like psychotic.
Mm.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It got better.
Yeah. We need a podcast on the brain of Mensis. Like,
I would be okay with that because I have footage where I like found a safe spot and recorded it while it was still hanging.
oh, that's cool. You know what? You know what? I have my ugly doll next to me, and I think the brain of Mansis is like the ugly doll of Bloodborne. It's like beautiful on the inside.
Well, the inside of the brain of Mensis is the living string.
No, it's like maybe the living string is like a splinter stuck in the brain of Mensis. You know,
It's an umbilical cord.
the living string is an umbilical cord.
Yeah.
Like it's been like 4 years since I read that item description, Richie.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't say it's one, but it looks like one.
Okay. We'll see if it looks like one or not. You know what it really looks like?
What?
Oh, God. It's like what I'm having a blank. What's the thing called? A paperclip.
Right.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a paperclip. Like you could totally clip papers with it, with the shape of it.
Yeah.
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 And the thing that it's located in is like a paperweight. So it's a paperweight that you can use to put your paper clips in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's on a little flying carpet.
What?
It's on a flying carpet. See? Do you see?
Oh, that. That's just All the chalice materials have like that.
They're all on the flying carpet. Did you? Okay.
Oh, some of them are on paper and some of them aren't.
Guess who my favorite character from Aladdin is?
The carpet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the funniest. Okay. Do any other great ones speak it? No other great ones talk to us because brain is the best. We acknowledged the brain in a way that it deserves to be acknowledged. I think this podcast is done.
What about the rest of the outline?
That's it. What great one is associated with the rune who spoke it? That's the last.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you want to do the outro?
That was Runes of Bloodborne.
Runes of
I
Bloodborne.
don't know what episode.
I don't know,
It was about the moon rune.
The moon rune.
Sim has come up with a series of jingles during it. Series of jingles! And, that's it, I think. We talked about the rune, we talked about the brain of Mensis. Sin developed a new appreciation of the brain of Mensis.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Richie. Bye, everyone.
Bye.